Robert, do you have a green thumb?
Green and brown and red.
A green thumb is what you call it when you're good at gardening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not good at gardening. So when my plants dry up, I literally flood it with water thinking that that will solve the solution. And guess what ends up happening?
Wash all the plants away.
And it ends up worsening. And in this episode of Real Estate Chat with
John de Perez.
and Robert Eade, we're going to talk about why hoping for a recession to decrease housing prices is like wishing for a flood to water your garden. I guess indirectly that means I'm flooding my garden with a recession. And this is an article here in the Financial Post that basically says that, I mean, it's a very intelligent discussion. We'll include it in the description. We'll include a link to this in the description. Is that there's various solutions that Robert and I have explored through everybody saying that they've got the solution to housing, and one of them is, of course, let's put the economy into a recession, right? And basically, with the recent happenings in real estate all throughout Canada, you can watch several of our episodes in the past, and we talk about the same thing. 32% increase in listings in September alone, according to the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Drop in sales to new listings ratio, which number has to be corrected as per Robert's episode or mention of the episode on Terminate and Relist. And a lot of other factors affecting home prices, affecting affordability, and basically affordability of housing, tongue twister there, is tied to both prices and mortgage payments. So the prices haven't really gone down and mortgage payments are increasing due to rising rates. Affordability gets affected. Now, this article has several fantastic solutions. One of them talks about, hey, why not put the economy into a recession? That should fix things up. And another is from CMHC Deputy Chief Economist Alid Abyorworth, basically talking about, hey, why not build? And Robert wanted to point out this particular quote on this article that says basically the cumulative price tag for building. There's that word again. Cumulative.
Mm.
A sufficient number of homes at $1 trillion, a sizable even prohibitive amount of a $2.2 trillion economy. So basically throw half of the money into building and add to that land, labor, construction material shortages, capital constraints, and of course, just from the government quotes, they won't say the red tape that they put on this. So, Robert, you and I talked about this before we started filming. What's the solution? Instead of throwing the economy into a recession, instead of building more and spending a ton of money, which is likely going to come from taxpayers, what's the solution then?
Okay, well, we're back to the same triumvirate that if affordability is the problem, lack of affordability, meaning the monthly payments are too high for someone with a stated income, then the solution to that is either reduce the price of the thing that's being unaffordable, reduce the interest rate that is financing that now unaffordable thing, or raise the income of the person that has to make the payment. Now, this is why this is a beautiful headline. It's clickbait, but it's true. It's an exaggeration. It's just, and it's a simile and a metaphor, and it's everything all at once. That if bad is good, meaning if we have a recession, that'll knock down prices. And if we have a recession, that'll knock down interest rates. Does that help affordability? No, because it knocks down incomes too. So if affordability is the problem we're trying to solve, which one do you want to work on? Do you want to work on knocking down prices? Now, everybody who owns a house said, no, don't do that. Everybody who thinks we got to beat inflation to the ground, wrestle it to the ground, we can't reduce interest rates. Oh, we can't use it. Well, incomes are too low for regular people to buy a house like they did when in the 50s. So you're going to increase incomes. No, we can't do that because that's artificially stimulating. So what are you going to do? Okay. So the fellow who was called on from CMHC in the same article by Stephen Moranis and Murtaza Haider, who's a professor at the university, was trying to say, If you think you can solve the problem by building supply, it's going to take, CMHC says, $1.1 trillion worth of building, including all those things that you were talking about, John, which is a tremendous number to contemplate doing to solve one problem of supply in an economy right now. The whole darn thing, including oil and gas and everybody's labor and services and everything like that, is only 2.2. So that's dumb. Everybody who's concentrating on building more houses, bending over backwards to build more houses, it's not going to work. Now, you don't need to bring in 1 million people every year, because that's the projection that says that we're not going to have enough houses in 2050, 2030, 2035, or whatever it is they're using as a date. Everything's a projection based on the price of things now, based on the cost, construction costs, based on the interest rates, based on the number of people that's going to be causing the demand. It's all a projection. We're trying to meet the projection. So if you go back to saying having 150,000 people a day, a year come into Canada, and they cannot come into the 5 major centers. If they want to come so bad, they can go to Sudbury. We need doctors there just as much as we need them in Toronto. And it's a very unpopular topic, but if you have a supply problem, then you got to address the demand aspect of it. So it goes back to what we were saying. Bad is good. If you want to have a good economy, you're going to have inflation and you're going to have higher interest rates. You have to get adjusted to that if that's what you want. If you want prices to come down, then you're going to have a terrible time for everybody, and everybody's going to be suffering because the price of my house has gone down from $1 million to 400,000. I was counting on that for my retirement. It's complicated, but it all comes down to not supply but to demand.
So, Robert, that's a very interesting point, because not too long ago, didn't the government also impose to stimulate or to unstimulate demand things such as foreign buyer bans, or taxes for vacant properties, and a whole slew of other things? And I get the immigration aspect of it, because let's say, for example, that we don't touch, or the government doesn't touch the economy because it's a naturally dynamic thing. But when you add people into that equation, then obviously demand gets stimulated. So let's say, for example, we can probably safely rule out that they'll never stop immigration, right? That's just the policy.
No, it's the amount. It's the amount. It's not they'll stop it.
So let's talk about that.
You have to go back to what you mentioned before. Why did they introduce in BC and here and here and here a vacant homes tax? Because some people were buying more than one property, and in the inflationary time, we're keeping it empty, because if you have rent controls in that particular community, the tenant, once he's in there, you can't get rid of him. It's a real bother. It's easier to just keep it empty while it appreciates for a year and a half, and then sell it, because your objective was capital appreciation, not to make cash flow along the way. Same thing with this prohibition on foreign buyers. The foreign buyers tax, they introduced it in June. We didn't find out about ourselves until like a year ago. And then it was implemented on January 1st. It caused tremendous misunderstanding. What does it mean? So then they finally, after about 60 days, they put in a whole bunch of exemptions. So if you were a student, if you were this, because the market had gone into a lull, and so they wanted to stimulate and unlull things by letting foreign buyers who had a reason or were on the route or whatever. The thing is, why are we selling our best real estate to people who don't live in the country, whose best interest is served themselves by getting appreciation of an asset, but they're driving the price up? Speculation, no matter where you come from, is what's evil on residential construction, residential property, that you want a little bit of it, but you don't want too much. What we had was rampant speculation. People were buying it in a low rate environment because you were borrowing money at less than the rate of inflation, and so it was free money. You might as well buy it. So what's the solution? So complicated that we're not going to talk about it in every aspect today, except to say, let inflation be your friend. We're going to have higher interest rates. We're going to have higher interest rates. We're going to have higher inflation, and we're going to have higher prices. Not tomorrow, 5 years now. So what do you want to do for 5 years from now?
Well, throttle what you can control. right? As Robert said, and immigration numbers is one of those things that can be throttled, and everything else would.
It's not a matter of thought. It's going back to where it's been historically, 100,000, 100,000, and make them come in and make everybody come in as a full citizen. None of this dual citizenship anymore. Because if you had a chance to put your foot in this camp and your foot in this camp and milk both systems, wouldn't you like to do that? If they welcomed you and they told you you could do that, you could be a dual citizen. And then you want to move back to Greece, you can move back to Greece and we'll send you your Canada pension over. It's a system that's been gamed by so many people for so long that the people who get elected by these dual citizens, get elected by these bleeding heart liberals, it's now coming home to roost for them. That it's unsustainable. You can't develop your population in that way. Never mind developing your Great Lakes system in that way.
Well, there you have it, the solution or proposed solution to the housing affordability issues. If you like this episode, make sure you click like, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our episodes. Type into the chat what your solution would be, and if you agree or disagree with what Robert has said. And believe it, more to come when it comes to speculation, because I know our real estate chat viewers, the moment that we said speculators, I mean, their ears probably perked up and they wanted to listen in on that. So more episodes on speculation coming up, and why we publicly and outwardly don't agree with speculation as a practice in real estate. Thanks for watching this episode of Real Estate Chat. Take care and bye for now.
The future is yours.